Okay, let's dive straight into it. We're going to look at the absolute chaos that erupted over at the Jaipur Shaheed Smarak. What was supposed to be, a totally structured, permitted protest by the cockroach junta party, it turned into a violent free-for-all in literally the blink of an eye. The second their prominent figure, Abhijeet Deepke, arrived, everything just went completely off the rails. So throughout this explainer, we're going to break down the raw footage and the on-the-ground accounts to see exactly what went down. We're talking immediate security failures and the deep-seated anger that fueled not just the protest, but the crowd's wild reaction to this sudden violence.
Just listen to the sheer desperation in that statement. I mean, the very second the assailants struck Abhijeet, the crowd didn't just freeze. They definitely didn't wait around for the police. They physically apprehended the attacker themselves. It's this profound statement of self-reliance, right? Born entirely out of a sudden, terrifying realization that they were totally on their own. The supporters explicitly called out that the police were not with them. That is an instant evaporation of trust and an immediate pivot to basically vigilante action to protect the leader of their movement.
It is wild to think about, but it took less than a minute for a celebration to turn into an absolute nightmare. Let's break down the timeline. At 0 seconds, the atmosphere is just electric, right? Triumphant. Abhijeet is literally being carried in on the shoulders of his supporters while everyone is chanting. But then, barely 15 seconds later, bam, a strike. By the 30-second mark, you've got this stampede-like panic as the dense crowd just surges. And at 60 seconds, the mob already has the attacker forcefully pinned down. It's honestly terrifying how fast a controlled environment can completely shatter when just one unexpected variable gets thrown into the mix.
Now, the juxtaposition here is just staggering. Keep in mind, this wasn't some underground rogue rally. Not at all. It was fully permitted for up to 800 people. It had specific crowd control conditions, and get this, it happened right next door to the police commissionerate. Yet, when Abhijeet walked right into the densest, most energetic part of the crowd, there was not a single officer forming a protective perimeter around him. So on paper, highly regulated, but in reality, a total localized security void.
So, the crucial question we really have to ask is, how does a massive oversight like this actually happen? I mean, if authorities knew a high-profile figure was walking into a highly charged political crowd, why in the world was he left entirely exposed? Protesters on the ground were fiercely arguing that this was either gross negligence or, something worse, a deliberate blind eye. But honestly, whatever the intent was, that vacuum existed. An attacker exploited it, and that shifted the heavy burden of security directly from the state right onto the shoulders of agitated citizens. They literally had to do the police's job for them.
But to really understand that boiling point, we gotta look at the pressure cooker these youths are sitting in, because this slap did not happen in a vacuum. First off, you have thousands mobilizing to demand the education minister's resignation up in Delhi. Then, you've got this massive crisis of exam paper leaks all across Rajasthan that are actively destroying these kids' futures. Add in their frustration with mainstream media, who they feel are ignoring their grassroots plight for cheap viral trends, and mix all of that with passionate Jai Bhim chants defending constitutional rights, well, you've got a powder keg just waiting for a spark.
To put that local anger into perspective, just think about the number 34. That is the exact number of schools recently shut down in just one single area, the Datramgarh Assembly constituency. When these activists are out there shouting about systemic educational failure, it is not some abstract concept. They are pointing right into their own backyards, 34 closed doors. It's a really tangible symbol of infrastructure collapse, and it's exactly why they feel so compelled to brave the heat, the crowds, and the chaos to demand some real answers. And all of this brings us to the stark ideological clash sitting right at the heart of the movement. On one hand, you have the ruling party heavily promoting this top-down narrative of India as a Vishwaguru or a world leader. But the youth on the ground, they are throwing that right back. It's a sharp, almost bitter rhetorical question. How can a nation be a global teacher when it can't even keep its local schools open or, stop exams from leaking? The friction between that grand political marketing and their grim daily reality is honestly deafening.
Ultimately, what happened in Jaipur is basically a microcosm of a much larger, more dangerous dynamic. When the state fails to secure democratic expression, the crowd is going to fill that void. And as we saw with the frantic capture of that assailant, crowd justice is chaotic, it's unpredictable, and it's highly dangerous. If citizens lose faith that the police will protect dissenting voices, the line between a peaceful rally and a violent brawl just completely vanishes. So what does this mean for the safety of future grassroots movements? Well, it's an absolutely crucial question we have to figure out as these protests continue to grow